bring in trial and criminal defense attorney Lexie Rigden and former head county prosecutor Bob Bianchi. Lexie, to you first. To quote you, Lexie, you say these allegations are substantive.
They are substantive. I was actually really surprised. I think that a lot of people, when they saw this come out, that there was going to be a motion, we thought, okay, it's just post-conviction motions for post-conviction motion's sake. But I was actually shocked when I actually saw what they're alleging, because they're basically alleging one of the most terrible things that you could allege about a public official depriving a defendant the right to a fair trial, which is his constitutional right. And I understand that, you know, he's not winning any awards, Alex Murdaugh, for Mr. Congeniality, but he's still entitled to a fair trial. So I was very surprised by the substance of the motion.
Yeah, and if you're a prosecutor, boy, Bob, this is a prosecution killer, because she's right. I mean, there is some merit here.
It's not only merit, it's one of the most egregious things I've ever heard. I agree with that defense lawyer. This, Trace, is a gut punch to the prosecutors. I've been involved in homicide cases. You spend weeks and months not sleeping well, not eating, working for your victims and the victim's family. And the last thing you need is when there's a juror issue and the judge has to go back and voir dire the jurors, and you think that your conviction that you got is now at risk for nothing that you or your witnesses or the police did. This is like the most really outrageous thing. Prosecutors right now are between a rock and a hard place, because if this case goes forward, it's likely, in my opinion, to be reversed on appeal. She went into that jury room, Trace, and she on multiple occasions influenced them to find a guilty verdict. I've never listened to anything about like that last point. If I were the prosecutor in that county and these allegations and these affidavits turned out to be correct, I'd be charging her with a crime.
Yeah, and I think this is we'll be talking about this for the next several days. Venezuelan migrant commits 14 crimes. He's arrested 6 times in 2 months in New York. Here's something we did for Jesse Waters tonight to kind of get us up to speed. Watch. The legal system also treated him nicely, because he was released again and again. A few days later, he's accused of viciously attacking a woman in Manhattan, grabbing her by the hair and dragging her across the floor. He got hit with assault and weapons charges, but was given supervised release, and apparently not a very good supervisor, because 3 days later, he threatened a stranger with a chain, got arrested, got released, got rearrested, and when Martinez requested medical attention, he assaulted a police officer. Now, after 14 crimes, he's being held on $5,000 bail. Yeah, it's kind of amazing, Lexie, because you look at this and you think, how is it possible that an illegal immigrant can be freed 5 times after committing some 14 crimes?
Right. This is really a multi-level problem. It's that we don't know who's pouring over our border. We have cities that are more favorable to people like this, where they kind of look the other way. And then you also have criminal justice reform, which in some cases, and in many cases, is actually a good thing. It's meant to cure some inequities. But the problem with criminal justice reform in this type of case is that people like this, who are committing, in comparison to other crimes, relatively low-level felonies, they're getting out time and time again. So I'm all for criminal defendants being treated fairly, but not unnecessarily soft on crime policies that allow this to continue.
Yeah, that's probably a fair assessment. In Austin, Bob, I want your take on this, because in Austin, unless a crime is still in progress, instead of calling 911, they now want you to call 311, because they just don't have the officers to actually show up and take your report of a crime. Your final thoughts on what in the world is going on around the country?
Yeah, you know, I don't know. And I agree with the last comment. We believe in criminal justice reform. There are certainly aspects to do that, but you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater here. These communities need the protection of the police. When I was the county prosecutor, one of the biggest complaints we got was that we were not doing interdiction in communities where there was high levels of crime. When you have high levels of crime, you have businesses leaving, education institutions failing, kids that can't walk on the streets and that are trying to be lawful abiding people. So why people are defunding the police to a point, I hate using that term, but to the point where they can't take 911 calls, abdicates the basic function of law enforcement, the basic need society has for everything to be built upon, and that's a safe environment where people feel secure and protected.
Yep, you're exactly right. Listen, when the Oakland NAACP says this is wrong, we need help, somebody should listen. Bob, Lexie, thank you both.
Thank you.